Some you know and some you don't. Don't blame me for being suspicious, but I see you need something else than what you want. I wish you could see yourself just like I do. Maybe you would know by now I really liked you. I'm not missing you. I'm not full of myself, just like you. I'd rather break my own thread, like a needle and stitch you up, just for you to tear it up again. Now I'm through. I'm not missing you. I'm not missing you. I'm not missing you. All you know is superficial. Some of it stays, some of it goes. Like a trend, you are a symbol of something no one ever will understand. I wish you could see yourself just like I do. Maybe you would know by now I really liked you. I'm not missing you. I'm not full of myself, just like you. I'd rather break my own thread, like a needle and stitch you up, just for you to tear it up again. Now I'm through. I'm not missing you. 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 I wish you could see yourself just like I do. Maybe you would know by now I really liked you. I'm not missing you. I'm not full of myself, just like you. I'd rather break my own thread, like a needle and stitch you up, just for you to tear it up again. Now I'm through. I'm not missing you.
If you don't speak, then you won't get spoken to. People only see you when you up, then they notice you. Trying to be a legend, create lines that's quotable. Only the real shall last, and I only know a few. People when they feelings always acting emotional. Ain't about a check, then it ain't negotiable. Gotta show respect to the people that's posting you. Soon to be on posters posted up like the older dudes.
Now we aging like fine wine, how we supposed to do? Peep the shade on the timelines, this time posted cool.
Oh hey, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good middle of the night, wherever you are, whoever you are, welcome. My name is Brian. I'm here on behalf of Free Salon Education with our live Thursday morning class today. Be sure to check us out. We're also going live right now on Minerva's website or Facebook? Facebook. And the reason I want to bring that up is because what's cool is you can go to their website right now, minervabeauty.com, to check out some inspiration for potentially upgrading your salon for fall or just in general because it's time. And the reason you may need some inspiration for that is because they're getting ready to do a massive $5,000 giveaway. So be watching out for an email from Matt later on how to enter into that, because that is a ton of money to use towards their really nice salon furniture. It's what we have here, and it is really nice because it's so easy to forget, because we see it every day and we work with it, how nice this stuff is until your guests bring it up. And you know, it's a nice point of conversation, something else to chat about, especially those sinks with the pedestal in the back. I still cannot stop singing those praises enough.
Yes.
All right, so hello. We're gonna jump into what we're doing this week, which is a fun build off of last week. I do love a nice story being told. It's like I have my own limited series here with this look. So last week, I showed you the most impressive haircut you've ever seen with the most impressive razor you've ever seen. You're welcome. And we did that really cool, like 90s, working with the texture, nice modernized version of what looks like kind of a one-length bob. We came in, this was after our lasagna, if you will, and just gave nice volume, little bit of movement, little bit of swing, but really more focused on where we were putting our weight in this graduation. So that's why we have that nice lift through the back as it moves towards the front. So today what we're gonna do is we're going to build off of that incredibly superior haircut with some really cool highlights. It's fall in the Northern Hemisphere, so just bear with me if you're on the Southern Hemisphere, or watch this in 6 months, whatever you wanna do. It's fall, so I wanna do something a little bit more autumnal for the highlights. I haven't done highlights on curly hair in a long time, so I kinda wanna combine the two. And so we're just gonna accent this really spectacular haircut with some really nice highlights. So we'll give her a little spin for an idea, a reminder of where we're going. Soft, subtle, supple. I like that word this time of year, well, any time of year, but especially now. So it's gonna be just little pops of highlights, working off of the fact that there is some texture in the hair, making it so that we don't have to do as many highlights, which works really well for this time of year, this season, this look. So we are going to ask her to take a seat in the waiting room as we bring out our model. This is actually the cut from last week. I know you're thinking, wow, that is incredible. Well, you watched it happen. If you didn't, be sure to download our app, the FSC Now app, where we keep all of our videos, all of our collections, so that you can harken back, remind yourself some of the cool stuff that we've done in the past, refresh on how to do some of the cool stuff that we've all learned together, and learn how to do the greatest haircut you've ever seen. All right, so today it's gonna be hand painting highlights because, like I said, we're gonna be working on more textured hair. I know she's not quite as curly because I haven't diffused her and she just air dried, but she does have that same nice texture in there. So we're gonna be working with her just like you would with a curly haired guest. That's gonna mean fewer, larger highlights because I want them to pop. I'm not going and trying to make this person look like a blonde. I really am just trying to accent whatever base color you're choosing or working off their natural base. Sectioning for this is gonna be very simple. It's going to be working off of different points of this front hairline and then just cutting a section all the way around the back of the head. If you're looking over the top, it's gonna be like a U shape or a V shape, whatever letter makes you happy, assuming that you understand the English alphabet. So, for starters, I'm gonna work off of that natural part, and then we're just going to know where you're gonna be off of the back of the head, just because I want you, again, working with the round of the head, because on a haircut like this, the sectioning is going to be really important because the sectioning, again, focuses on the shape of the head and how that's going to relate to the haircut. So for my first section, it's gonna be, it's so nice working with a mannequin because this is so like precise. I want to be creating a highlight that's going to sit behind that ear, because this time of year and this haircut, one of the really cute trendy styles for this is sort of that half up, half down thing that you see people with. They'll make a cute little bun with this part of the bob and leave this out to look really nice. So I like having that highlight right there and that kind of mastoid process sort of area behind the ear, because that drops down and just sort of sits there and gives a nice little something for the eye to notice while the hair is down and you're looking directly at the person. So we're gonna create that section right at that top of the ear and then just bring it straight back. Because the hair is shorter, I'm only doing half a head at a time. I'm not gonna try to be really slick and scoop all the way across because it's not gonna happen. But you are just gonna keep that line going until you get to the exact same spot on the other side of the head. I'll give you a little, I'll help you so Matt doesn't have to do gymnastics. So you see it just cuts right across. so that when that hair is worn up in that cute little, oh, let me just go run and grab my little pumpkin spice latte and throw half of my hair up and look like I'm not styled, they'll still be styled. There'll be a nice little highlight right there. So you got that first section done. You have made your jokes with your guest about, oh, let's just leave it like this. Haha, I'm done. This is the style for the season. Because we all make those jokes 100 times a day, every day. Make your jokes and then come mix your color. Again, we're doing balayage, so I'm working with my Champion, my Skylights from Paul Mitchell. Perfect in this scenario because it's going to give me the lift that I'm looking for. And what's cool is today, we're not looking to blast up super blonde. So especially in a scenario like this, my expected 7 levels of lift is perfect because that's more than enough. I'm still going to work with 40 volume. I'm still going to go in and treat this like I do most of my highlights. It's just going to take less time. So whereas if I was going for somebody to be super, super blonde, you might process them for a full like 45 minutes. Working with these products in this developer, you might be able to knock it out in half that time. Because I'm really, like I said, just looking to accent this color that they have as a base color. And this mannequin's rocking around a level 6. So I'm really not looking to go above like an 8 or 9 with the highlights, roughly. Not talking exact because again, we're doing hand painted, so it's more of a general expectation than an exact landing point. So if we're sitting at that 6 and we're trying to get up to, you know, that what the chart considers light blonde, then, you know, we can expect to have those nice gold colors come through. And this might be a scenario where instead of toning away all of that gold, we are looking to embrace it because it is fall and it is a chance to work with those autumnal tones to just look really pretty and really soft. It sort of goes with the palette of the season, which I'm into. I always love warm colors, so I like that this time of year we can kind of embrace that and there's nothing wrong with it. That doesn't mean that we're gonna just lift it and leave it as a raw bleach job because that's just not how we do things. But knowing where we're going to end up, knowing what's going to be in front of us as far as our dominant pigment that's been awakened, you can plan accordingly. So if I'm looking to end up with that, oh, I love that. If I'm looking to end up with that, say, you know, level 8, then I might leave some of the yellow and just make, you know, you need that blue violet. So I might just go in and use just some blue to get like the deeper oranges out of there and not really use any violet because I want to hang on to the lighter yellows in the gold. That's where toning gets fun because it's not just about getting rid of everything, it's choosing what to get rid of and what to leave to create a cool look. So that I've mixed my lightener. So again, this is curlier hair. So on curlier hair, I have fun with it because the look of highlights on curly hair really is more of a pop. You know, curly hair has an energy and a funness to it that allows you to go in there and you almost have to work a little bit more bold because the curls have that energy that's just gonna swallow up your work. So if you go through and work so hard on doing these fine highlights and a zillion little highlights, those big fun curls are just gonna eat that right up and you're not gonna see it as much. So this is where you go in and you start creating bigger, you know, larger than life highlights respectively, so that they still have a foot to stand on when the finished look is all completed. So for this highlight behind the ear, I've got my preferred way of taking this section is this creates a little bit of a triangle right here, both the section that I took and the line of the hairline back there. So I just kind of like to cut across and get that nice little triangle there, which gives me a great edge to work off of. So based on the density of your guest's hair, take what you know is a pretty substantial size section and lay it on.
Question.
Answer.
Why 40?
I like to work with 40 just because it's what I work with the most often. So it's what helps me keep it predictable. So by that I mean, if you work with other volumes a lot and know what to expect, then by all means do that. I primarily only work with 40, so time-wise, I know what to expect. I know if I do 40, use 40, do 40. If I use 40 volume, I can generally have an idea of, okay, it's gonna lift this much in this amount of time, which just helps me be more effective and more efficient. You know, if you use a lower volume, you're just gonna leave it on longer. And I just wanna get the boring part done. Processing is the boring part for me. So I'm coming in, making that nice bold highlight. I am busting so that I can saturate all the way through on the ends, because again, I want more, a nice big highlight. I don't want this to fade into the background.
Lisa says thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for your question.
Did you explain clay lightener?
I mean, not really.
Okay.
I can though. So the reason that clay lightener is great in the hand painting is because typically what's going to happen is after I apply this, the clay in the actual lightener itself is going to form a little bit of a shell on this section, for lack of, you know, a better way to put it. The outside of this is going to sort of like dry and harden, if you will. Let's go with shell. It's going to create a shell, which is then going to create an internal environment where the bleach can do its job. So when it dries on the outside, it's going to create this little like biodome where inside the lightener stays wet so that it keeps working. When it dries out on the outside, it kind of slows down the lifting of it, so that you need to be mindful of the fact that that's where saturation comes in. So if my highlight is showing off a lot of that hair inside, like that is, if you were to zoom in, you can see those little hairs. Those aren't gonna lift as much, but everything underneath is. So it's a give and take. It's an understanding that your, it dries, that's it. The clay lightener dries, making it so that you can continue to lift inside that little highlight area. And it spreads nicely.
The people that watch this are so smart. I love seeing it.
I know, I'm loving everyone helping me with the answers.
I know. We're all growing together.
Love it. Got my Bali wrap from Sunlights, because I like to keep it clean. I like to stay tidy. My mouth is filthy, but my work is clean. All right, next section. We're coming up into the temple here. And we're just gonna rock. This mannequin, most people, this is gonna be around that parietal ridge, because we're trying to make the most out of the fewest. So we're not looking to do a zillion highlights, but we're still looking for a lot of impact. So working on the round of that head, that is a spot that is going to make the haircut move. Because of how we cut this and the direction of the weight in this haircut, the parietal ridge is pretty important because the hair is going to be shown off here a lot, because that's what's going to give you your swing as this haircut moves. So adding some highlights along this same ridge is going to be a pretty important spot. And then just continue that same line on the other side.
I think Johnny Livingston's on.
Oh my God, I love him. Long time no see, buddy. All right. So then again, we've got our beautiful style that I'm sure will inspire some jokes. Make your jokes and then get to work. So now, this is your first section on your hairline. So this is up to you. Keep it bold, but figure out how you want to do it. If this is going to be someone who wears their hair back more, then you may want to put a little bit more focus into the front-facing part of that section. If they're going to be wearing the hair down more, you may want to sort of not lay it on super, super heavy up front and more so on top and through the ends. That's going to be up to your consultation with your guest and just a little bit of planning on your part. I'm going to split the diff. Instead of going back and instead of coming down, I'm going to do a little diagonal back. For those of you that love proper section naming. So I'm going diagonal back, and again, thicker highlights. Don't be scared of really getting in there, because like I said, that curl is just gonna twist and make that start to just vanish immediately. So if your highlight's not bold enough, you're not gonna see it. So don't be scared.
Let's talk about the underneath.
Okay.
What does the underneath look like on that?
Whoa, where are we calling the underneath on this?
I think underneath your lightener is what, or it says what's underneath or how much is underneath. So I'm assuming.
All right, so I'll address a couple of underneaths. The underneath of this section, I am not running this all the way through until I get to the ends. You see that? On the end, I'm trying to like turn without screwing this up. On the end, I'm saturating the ends, but not running it all the way up the hair because I do want plenty of depth in this. Again, I'm highlighting this base color, not trying to turn them blonde. So I want to leave lots and lots of base and really just give a nice strong accent. So that underneath is that. So my highlight fades into the whole end being blonde and not the whole section. As far as the underneath of the shortest bit of the haircut, in case that's what you were talking about, I am leaving that natural because naturally it should be a little bit darker down here at the nape because that's just naturally what happens. Also, if you go back and watch that amazing haircut from last week, it's kind of short. So if you were trying to highlight that, it's gonna be a little bit more noticeable. It's gonna look like that highlighted short when there's a graduation in the back that sometimes can look a little funny. And it just doesn't really go with this exact look because again, I'm leaving lots and lots of dark in this particular style. So instead of going in and taking the next section behind this like I normally would if I was doing lots and lots of highlights, I'm gonna kick it back to another important spot on the head, and that's gonna be this back corner where my parietal starts to become the back of the head. That's just gonna be another important area where there's gonna be some swing, there's gonna be some action in the haircut, so I wanna create some action with the color as well. So I'm just taking a nice big section right at that back corner. And again, another nice bold highlight. Not focusing on saturating all the way through. For this one, we're really more just highlighting on top because it's gonna give us enough, it will work. Then I transfer to the paddle so I can get those ends.
Here's a familiar human being.
Oh my God. I loved Alexa. Loved, like I
Loved.
don't know anymore. Like our buddy from back in the day.
All right. You want to read that?
Can you read it too?
Yep. Do you find when doing this technique on curly hair, I knew it was going to go away. On curly hair clients that the curl pattern changes where the lightener is applied? I have noticed this on my hair, and what suggestion do you have to verbalize this to the client properly?
I think it's really, with me, just a lot about understanding what they're hoping to get from this. Like, I've discovered that when it comes to like a specialized type of highlighting like this is really specifically for this haircut. then I need to be so incredibly thorough with my consultation that they know what to expect. I will go into the fact that curly hair is going to just eat up a highlight, so don't freak out when you see me do a really fat highlight, depending on the curl pattern. If it's a bigger wave, I might do a fatter highlight so that you just see that thing dance in a nice big fat wave. If it's tighter curls, I might not go as large, but I might still apply a highlight that's, like twice as thick as the actual textured curl pattern, so that I know it's gonna show up, so that I know you're gonna see it. And then just a lot of explaining with that.
Do you find, so I think her question is, do you find that Lightner changes the curl pattern, basically?
Yes. It does bounce back. I mean, that's part of the reason that I used to be so blonde, was because it was the easiest way for me to kill my curls, was just to bleach my hair to no end, and then I didn't have to deal with my curls anymore. So it can bounce back. It does bounce back. It's not quite the same. I mean, curls are so sensitive. Their structural integrity, I mean, we see it. Weather, steam, everything can throw curls off. So definitely something as, I'm trying to think of a gentle word, something as bold as bleach is definitely going to change up the curl pattern. So again, explaining that, and just, I'll tell my guests, that our girls have been through something today, so give them a couple of days of little TLC and your curls should be back in no time.
Do you feel like, I find this interesting. I've never really noticed somebody's curl really change after I did highlights on them, but what I find interesting is it makes sense why it would change, because you're breaking down a lot of bonds when you do highlight hair.
Mm-hmm.
So is it something that it doesn't happen to everybody, right? And I think this is where people need to know that they should go to a professional. Alexis is a professional, but I'm saying people in general that are watching this, it's why it's so important, because if you over lighten your hair, you could lose that curl. You could lose that nice curl that you might have,
mm-hmm.
or that your friend might have, or whoever, if you over lighten. So just...
Yeah, I mean, so it's one of those things, Matt, you probably wouldn't notice. It's not like they're not gonna have beautiful curly hair and then, highlights that look like they've been relaxed.
Yeah.
It's more something that the person who does those curls every day will just notice that it takes a couple extra scrunches to get, lightened hair to do what it does.
Okay.
And after a couple of shampoos and just treating it with some TLC, you'll notice that it just goes back to normal without you even doing anything.
Okay. But you can over lighten.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
And really mess your curl up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just like you can.
Like I said,
cut hair
I
long
used to bleach my hair to get it as white as possible, so that, and it wasn't that it made my hair not curly, it just made it so much easier. I could just use a really light cream and it would straighten my hair. If it was wet, I would comb over my hair with a cream and then it would dry and be straight for the day and the curl wouldn't fight back. If I were to put nothing in it, it'll still curl, it will be fuzzier and look very processed, but it will still curl.
Right. Okay. Cool.
Why don't I do live models? Because then you don't get to see the after. I mean, it's a good question, but the after is what's most exciting. Well, not most exciting, but it's the payoff comes in the finished result. And I don't feel like having a 2-hour long tutorial where you watch somebody process and then watch me shampoo and watch me tone and watch me then style. So that's why there's the mannequin I work on and the mannequin that I've finished.
Yeah.
Haircut videos are more fun. For live models, sorry.
Yeah. I think the biggest, I address this question all the time. That's why I kind of just don't anymore as much, because I as professional, like as a professional hairdresser, I feel like people don't question people using mannequins to teach.
Yeah.
I think a lot of those questions usually come up when it's not a professional and they want their exact hair type shown on screen. And that's the problem. Not every single person on the planet has a different situation. So even if I bring in a live model, it might reach one person that has that exact same hair out of 500.
Right.
But really, the goal is to teach the whys behind everything so that you can do everybody's hair that sits in your chair, and we can go over scenarios and we can talk about it. And as professionals, we understand it, but it's just hard to bring in live models, to schedule live models. We do classes all the time. We do videos all the time.
Yeah.
It's just easier to pull mannequins and have these conversations. So
Right.
occasionally we have live models.
And let's not forget, I'm also a hairdresser. I would rather these people come in and pay me to do this. I'm not bringing my actual clients in here. Come on.
Do you prefer to do this type of highlight on clients with natural curl or straight?
Honestly, I like doing it on the curly. Because then it will remind me sort of how their curl pattern works, and if there's areas where it's stronger or, you know, a fatter curl or a tighter curl, then you can sort of address it, you know, play it where it lands, you know, see what that spot needs. You know, you may pull this section out on a person's natural hair, and up here in these recession lines, they have like a much tighter curl. You might not want to do the exact same big fat highlight, because then, you know, it's just not gonna take the same way. So I do like to work on the curly hair. Yes, it is brushed out, but you can still see what's going on in that hair texture. So for this section, again, I don't want to over bleach that front hairline, but I do want to make sure that I am addressing it. So I've now come all the way up around my mind is failing. What is this section up here?
The parietal ridge.
Above the parietal?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So slightly finer at the start of this one, just because I'm being mindful of the highlights that I've put in around the hairline. But I still want a bold highlight. So what I'll do for this one is I'll throw another small one in the back and have them meet quickly to turn this into the bold highlight so it matches everything else. That make sense?
Yep.
Thanks, Matt. You're the best hype man ever.
Speaking for the people. Do you think clay lightener works better on tightly curled hair or traditional?
Yes, because one of the big things that I love about clay lightener is the fact that it is drier and it doesn't. Traditional lightener might get a little runny and travel to places that you're not expecting it. So clay lightener stays exactly where you put it. It doesn't swell, it doesn't move. You put it down and that's where it stays. It's like a house with no kids. All right, so again, same thing. Two skinnier highlights that quickly join together to create a bigger highlight, and then run that through the ends. And then what I'm gonna do now for the back of this head is, this is kind of fun. I'm going to take that typical V-shaped section that a lot of balayage is done with, but I'm going to use it coming from both sides of the head, making a really big V, because now this is going to be almost like a sun-lightened highlight that when her natural texture is worn and you're showing off this haircut, this is going to fall and spread throughout this haircut, giving more of a general area of highlight rather than the strong specifics that we're seeing with a lot of the other applications in this technique. So what I'll do here, I'll work on the outside of this big V. I'm not going to take it all the way to the root here because there's not going to be a whole lot of other highlights around here for that to make sense. So giving it a little bit of space to become its own thing. I'll throw a highlight in the middle there, a little bit lower down the hair shaft than those outside highlights. And then just connect the three. And if ever you're worried about a highlight like this being too big and too bold, a really easy way to keep it from being too much is just to keep the highlight on top. Don't saturate underneath, and it's going to be a lot less highlight than you think. So while this looks like, oh my goodness, Brian, that's so much of the back of the head, it's really only this highlight on top here. So it's not going to be that bad. And remember, because we're pulling from two different sides of the head, like I said, this is going to spread out and not be nearly as bold as you think it is. So again, I'm not really saturating the ends like I have on some of the previous highlights. I'm really just painting over the outside, but making sure that you've got a nice consistent highlight from where you started to where you finished. So set that bad boy down, cover it up with some Bali wrap, which, in case anybody is wondering, is going to keep it from drying out too fast, because like I said, when it dries out, it stops working. So this will just help make sure that I get a little bit more of that predictability that I do so love as a control freak like I am.
Okay, Johnny's cracking me up in the chat. He's just
Love Johnny.
definitely drinking coffee this morning. Amanda's asking, how do you decide how large to create the V section?
Again, it's just gonna vary based on their hair. Because look, when I set this down now, because of that section that I took, there's nothing falling back here in their hair. So that nice big V is what's gonna give you your highlights for the whole back of this hair. So keep that in mind. That's how to determine how big you want that V. How much highlighting do you want back here? When this hair is done, processed, over, let me tilt her down on that camera so you can see what I'm talking about. This is going to now all be covered by just this highlight that I created. So this dark is going to be what's underneath, and it's really just gonna help marry everything together. So that's gonna be based on you. What you have decided you want this final look to be, how light you want it to be back here is what's gonna determine how big that section is. Also, density, all of the normal players.
Cool. Time check, 10:56.
Cool. Good thing we're about done. So here, this is just gonna be how you wanna finish this off. Are you going to have highlights that go all the way up to the root on the part? Do you just want a money piece? Do you want, your effect? For me, I want a good strong money piece, and I don't really have too many highlights that run down to the part, so I don't feel the pressure to do that. Running back here. So we got this. Luckily for everyone watching, I don't have a client right at 11.
Oh, you don't?
Nope.
Sweet.
Yeah, this week everyone chose to get sick, so I had quite a few cancellations.
It's going around, I think. Not
Yeah.
COVID, the other. I think it's the change in seasons.
Yeah, it's our normal fall time. Everyone's sick all the time.
Yeah.
And this just so happens to be the week where all my clients got it. Again, you know I love my money. Money piece. Swipe, swipe, swipe. Get it nice and saturated, because this is where you really want to pay attention to what's going on, because this might be where you really want to just lay it on super thick. So I hope by now you've been paying attention to how their curl pattern is, because I want this nice and bold, But you still want it to look good. You don't want it to look like just this ridiculous chunk that doesn't make sense. You want it to work with their curl, but still give them that cool money piece. I might actually just come through, based on the size of this section, the density of the hair, and just run a little bit of lightener through maybe some of the ends. Like a light dusting, not even a super heavy saturation, but really just something that's going to break up that color. Because if I do that right here, looking at what I've done, I've got this nice big panel that we created back here, this nice strong highlight that we've created up here. So I'm just going to use this opportunity to just break up that base so that these ends have that nice, almost like a stone washed effect. So that we've got some lightening going on without necessarily being the bold, bright highlight of everything else, which creates more of an overall look. It gives you that dimension. Since we're planning on landing on a warmer tone anyway, because I said so at the start of this, that's going to be great because you're really only going to get a bump in lift when you don't have that heavy saturation. So knowing that it's going to only give me a fraction of the lift that I'm going to get from these strong highlights, I can tone with something that I know is going to give that nice warm, but everything married together autumnal look. So then of course, you wrap her up so that everything has a nice opportunity to get bright. And then we'll give her a little spin for you. You let her process, whether you do it just straight up as it is, or you go under heat, whatever, that's up to you. But you see there's a nice difference. Even looking at it now, this isn't going to get as light as this or this, which will be a nice dimension. So now is a good time to look back at our finished model, and you can see that there's different kinds of dimension in there. You know, having the heavier highlight, you see where I did that real big section in the back here, and now that's what gives us sort of a, oh yeah, this summer I had a lot of fun. And so the ends are a little bit light while still having, you know, just that nice dimension that shows through those curls. These curls can get a little bold, so it's gonna spread open and show you inside of hair way more than a bob on straight hair is going to. So that's why going through and hitting those important parts of the head where you know they support a lot of weight is going to be very important in this color application. So I am digging this. So you now have learned the most superior haircut in your entire career and a really fantastic highlighting technique to go with that haircut. She's looking good. And now next week, I'm gonna go into, finally, I'm doing a diffuse video. I have been talking about wanting to do one forever and just never getting around to doing it. So when I was putting this look together, I was like, oh, thank God, I can finally do a diffuse video. So next week, we're gonna finish this gorgeous model off, and we're going to actually get in with a little bit of styling on what to do when you've got a guest with curly hair that you want to diffuse and show them how to make their curly hair look its best. So I think that's it. Are there more questions we want to hit on?
I actually do have a couple here.
Lay it on me. I got time.
All right. So we'll rapid fire. We have about 5 questions.
Thank you, everybody. Oh, hi, Adrian. How do you find the vision for the final look? Partings, is it pure art or is it technique and art? Technique and art. It's knowing what is capable with what's in front of you, and then working with your guest to create a vision. I'm a big fan of inspiration photos. Not, yes, I'll give you that, but yes, I like that. You know, when my guests bring out photos, you know, it's, by now we have a pretty decent rapport, so they know you're not that model, I was not that hairdresser, unless they bring you one of your own photos, and then it's like a really big ego stroke. But it really is more just, okay, what about that do you like? And then figuring out how to translate that to what they have on their head.
Next.
Are you ever concerned about the highlights being evenly toned due to the time between the first and the last? Am I? Yes. But is it really an issue that often? No. Like, that application goes on so much faster. I did a lot of stopping to talk. Ways that you can combat that are using a different if you're going into something that's is going to take a long time, using a lower developer on your first few sections or a higher saturation on your last few sections, you're in complete control of that kind of stuff. It is just being honest with yourself about how long something is going to take you and how fast you can get through, and then just cater where you can to help get a more even lift so that toning is a little bit simpler for you. Brian, fun fact that most of you wouldn't know about me. I am a huge comic book nerd. You should be able to figure that out, but it occurred to me that a lot of people just notice that I am tattooed, but don't notice what the tattoos are. And so my left arm is actually some of my favorite X-Men, because I've been a big X-Men fan my whole life. And yeah, so there's that.
Fun fact.
When putting in highlights the way you're doing, are you not concerned about it bleeding through the other hair and going orange? Typically, clay lighteners don't bleed if mixed to a consistency that's what they recommend. It's thicker and it dries before it gets the chance to bleed. Ways to make sure that your balayage highlights don't bleed is going to be the elevation of the hair you're working on, because on a head like this, if I am applying my section up here, I don't have to worry about it being smashed into the section that I've already done below it. If I'm holding my hair down here and then applying, it's going to press down, and then you are going to get some bleeding. So it's just being mindful of what you're working with and how you're working, and you should be able to avoid having any bleeding. Did I tone afterwards? This mannequin, I think I did, but with just a light one. I think I used like a light NB on there just because I wanted something, just to make sure that I enhanced some of the yellows and golds without going like crazy fashion color yellow. But again, that's going to be just based on what your guest lifts do. There is no, this is what you should always use. Approach every situation individually. It's how to be a good colorist.
Cool. All right.
Cool. All right. Thank you guys so much. Again, be sure to watch for Matt's email about this Minerva giveaway, because that's like pretty tight. I'm serious. And be sure to go to freesaloneducation.com, download our app. That's where you can find us. That's where you can find all these videos without having to rifle through what YouTube wants to throw in your face to try to sell you. So just go do the app. It's much easier and more streamlined, and then you can chat directly with us and show us your work as well. You can check me out if you have questions either on the app or on Instagram if it chooses to not go down again, at Hairstyle, hair with an E, because that's my last name. And yeah, thank you guys so much. Tune in next week. We'll be playing some more, and I'll see you soon.
It's no use working 9 to 5.